Congresswoman Michele Bachmann is surging in the polls. The latest poll comes from the nation's first primary state, New Hampshire. While it shows Mitt Romney holding a steady lead with 36 percentage points, the big story is Congresswoman Bachmann, who jumped from 3% in May to 11% today. With us now, Democratic pollster and Fox News analyst and my good friend, Pat Cadell. What do these polls tell you? Do they mean anything this far in advance of the primaries?
Well, they don't tell us how they're going to come out, but they tell us right away who has heat. I mean, Romney is well known. He ran before. He's strengthened himself as a front runner, I think. But Bachmann has been on fire ever since the debate. She announced she goes to New Hampshire. She has this. So she's even with Romney in Iowa.
Right.
She represents an outside viewpoint, I think. And also dynamic, so she's a hot commodity.
Do you think that she represents the Tea Party, the small government, sound money, government leave me alone attitude?
Somebody is going to represent the Tea Parties in these primaries, and right now she has basically, for a while, people thought Herb McCain might be. Well, we're also waiting to see what Rick Perry's up to. She heads the Tea Party caucus in the House.
Right.
She's it right now.
We have a poll from the Des Moines Register which shows Ron Paul scoring.
Basically dead hot.
Right,
dead
which shows Ron Paul scoring very well.
Yes.
Does he represent? Does he represent the small government?
Let me say, what you have is the anti-Washington political class, the outside there. You've got about 30% of the vote in Iowa already.
Right.
Between Bachmann, Herman Cain, and Paul.
Right.
Almost a third of the vote right now. I mean, that's astounding for a disciplined party.
Does that mean that this old Barry Goldwater versus Lyndon Johnson, Ronald Reagan versus George H.W. Bush, Tea Party versus John Boehner establishment divide in the Republican Party is still there and is going to be played out in these primaries?
Well, I think this is a new divide. You're right. It's the stepchild, if you are, the grandchild of that earlier division, particularly the Goldwater division. I think you're going to see it. I think the Tea Parties represent that, and I think they've got a real problem with the establishment in Washington, as they should. The Republican establishment in Washington might as well be the junior partners of the Democrats sometimes.
You're singing the tune for most people who watch this show and appreciate what we say here. Let me ask you a question about Congresswoman Bachmann. Do you think that the press imposes a different standard on women than it does on men? I mean, did the media ask anybody else their understanding of the American Revolution and the forces that brought it together?
And you think the sun rises in the east, Judge?
Yes.
The answer?
Last time I checked.
This does. Let me tell you something. This is not only they treat women. And by the way, it's not just Bachmann and Palin. Look how they treated Hillary. There's a certain, when you get the establishment press, and
even the liberal establishment press,
they
even
are outrageous.
Let
me tell you something. Well, let me just say this: Stephanopoulos, Chris Matthews, was saying, "Oh, she's for constitutional principles. She must be for slavery." Let me just say this: you have people who are political hacks. He and Stephanopoulos parading around. We'll put it on the table. Those are political hacks parading around like they're journalists of some kind. They're jokes. They sit there and they push agendas for my party, my former party.
Are they liberals who dislike women and want to impose different standards on female
Chris
candidates?
Matthews has had a lot of problems dealing with women, including Hillary Clinton and others. I mean, he has at least shown, and I know Chris doesn't mean to have it, but you could make a case, a misogynistic instinct. Hey, look at Bill Maher, what he did to Palin's daughter
right. Well, that stuff's reprehensible.
She's 20 years old. But, I mean, this kind of stuff that's passed is acceptable to get up and to ask women to say, oh, they're dangerous. You should see, I doubt you've seen it today. Rolling Stone has a major story on Michele Bachmann. I know Michele Bachmann. She and I don't agree on every issue by far, to say the least. But she is a very smart, intelligent woman. And this piece makes her out to be, it's unbelievable how bad it is, and they're all working together, by the way.
Let me ask you
this.
this.
Kill conservative Republican women and conservatives as soon as they're out of the box.
Does Michele Bachmann take up the space that Sarah Palin might have occupied because Sarah Palin is not an active candidate?
Right now, of course she is. She's filling part of the vacuum of people who would be for Palin or might be or would be, whatever. But let me just say this, for all these candidates, and here's the lesson they have to learn. It's time to start pushing back on these press people. They don't have the right to do this. for them to question, for George Stephanopoulos, who knows about as much about American history as I can fill a thimble with, to question about whether John Quincy Adams is a founding father.
It sounds like we're going to have a rollicking primary, and you're going to be very interested to be right in that chair talking about it.
I would like to do that, because I like to keep them honest, or at least tell you the truth about them. You know how I feel. Let them have it.
We know exactly how you feel now, Pat Cadell. Thank you for joining us.